Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is not about the obvious things everyone repeats when talking about Trinidad and Tobago. It's about the rare and surprising details that few actually know. That's why you'll want to watch carefully, because every fact here is something special. If you're curious for even more, click on the top right corner or look in the description for more videos. Drop your corrections, thoughts, or hidden gems in the comments. I always read and answer them all. Fact 1. The national motto. The official motto of Trinidad and Tobago is, "Together we aspire, together we achieve." This powerful phrase was adopted at independence in 1962, and it represents the deep cultural blend and national unity of the islands. Trinidad and Tobago is a melting pot where people of African, Indian, European, Chinese, and Middle Eastern descent live side by side, and this motto reminds citizens that progress can only come through collective effort. The idea of aspiration is especially important in a country that has transformed from a colonial outpost into one of the richest nations in the Caribbean, thanks largely to its energy resources. It is not only a political slogan, but also something you can see in everyday life, whether in music festivals, sports, or even community projects. For locals, this motto is more than just words on paper. It is a guiding principle that emphasizes ambition, resilience, and above all, unity. Fact 2. Tobago as the Robinson Crusoe Island. For centuries, Tobago carried the romantic nickname of the Robinson Crusoe Island, because many historians believe it inspired Daniel Defoe when he wrote his famous novel in 1718. The lush forests, hidden bays, and dramatic landscapes of Tobago matched perfectly with the description of Crusoe's survival paradise. European explorers and settlers often remarked that the island seemed almost untouched, filled with abundant wildlife and natural resources that could sustain a castaway. While the novel itself never directly names Tobago, sailors' tales and cartographers' notes from the 17th century frequently linked Crusoe's fictional world to this Caribbean gem. Today, visitors still seek out the wild, unspoiled corners of Tobago that echo Defoe's descriptions, places like Pirates Bay, Englishman's Bay, and the Mainridge Forest Reserve. Although tourism packages sometimes exaggerate the connection for marketing, the idea that Tobago could have been the muse for one of literature's most famous survival stories makes it feel even more adventurous and mysterious. Fact 3. Trinidad's world-famous carnival. Trinidad hosts one of the largest and most vibrant carnivals in the entire world, celebrated every February with unmatched energy. What makes it unique is not just the size, but the cultural fusion behind it. African drumming traditions, European masquerades, and Indian rhythms all blend into a spectacle of sound and color. The carnival season lasts weeks, with fetes, steelpan competitions, soca concerts, and the legendary panorama contest, where orchestras of steel drums perform breathtaking arrangements. The highlight is the parade of bands, where thousands dress in elaborate costumes covered with feathers, sequins, and beads that can cost anywhere from several hundred to several thousand American dollars, sometimes more than 10,000 Trinidad and Tobago dollars. Locals say Carnival is not just a party, but the greatest show on earth, and it's deeply tied to identity, freedom, and resistance against colonial oppression. For many, it is an emotional release before the solemnity of Lent, but for visitors, it's pure joy, rhythm, and unforgettable spectacle. Fact 4. The only oil and gas giant of the Caribbean. Trinidad and Tobago is the only nation in the Caribbean blessed with vast reserves of oil and natural gas, making it one of the region's wealthiest economies. Unlike most island nations that rely heavily on tourism, Trinidad's economy is powered by its energy sector. Offshore platforms pump millions of barrels of crude oil, while massive gas fields supply liquefied natural gas exported across the globe. The country earns billions every year, and the energy sector contributes more than 1/3 of its gross domestic product. This wealth has allowed Trinidad and Tobago to maintain higher living standards compared to many neighboring islands, where tourism dominates and resources are limited. Still, the heavy dependence on fossil fuels makes the economy vulnerable to global price fluctuations. A meal on the street may cost only a few American dollars, around 20 to 30 Trinidad and Tobago dollars, thanks in part to energy revenues keeping costs relatively affordable. Yet at the same time, the government faces pressure to diversify, balancing prosperity today with sustainability for the future. Fact 5. Tobago's name from tobacco. The name Tobago comes directly from the Spanish word tobacco, a reflection of how early European explorers associated the island with the indigenous use of tobacco. When Spanish sailors arrived in the Caribbean during the 15th and 16th centuries, they noticed that the native peoples cultivated and smoked tobacco leaves in ceremonial and medicinal practices. The habit fascinated Europeans, who quickly carried the plant back to the Old World, where it spread like wildfire across courts, taverns, and marketplaces. Tobago became closely linked to the image of tobacco, even though the crop was not exclusive to this island. The very word tobacco became universal, cementing the island's name in global consciousness. This linguistic tie highlights how indigenous traditions shaped colonial naming practices, often overshadowing the island's original Amerindian names. Today, tobacco is no longer a key part of Tobago's economy, which relies much more on tourism and fishing, but the name remains a permanent reminder of how one small Caribbean island helped introduce a plant that reshaped habits and economies worldwide. Fact 6. The tiny jewel of Trinidad, the peachy hummingbird. Trinidad is home to one of the smallest birds on the planet, the peachy hummingbird, more formally known as the tufted coquette. This little creature measures barely 3 inches in length and weighs less than a coin, yet it dazzles with vibrant plumage and rapid wing beats that create a faint humming sound. Locals affectionately call it peachy because of its tiny size and quick darting movements around flowers. These hummingbirds play an essential ecological role, pollinating tropical plants while they sip nectar with their long, slender beaks. Watching one hover motionless in mid-air feels like seeing a jewel come alive, with feathers flashing in shades of emerald, copper, and orange. Birdwatchers travel from across the globe to catch a glimpse of this feathered gem in Trinidad's lush gardens and forest edges. Despite its fragile appearance, the peachy is remarkably resilient, thriving in both wild habitats and near human settlements. It is a living symbol of how something so small can carry immense beauty and ecological importance. Fact 7. The Hindu community and Diwali in Trinidad. Trinidad has one of the largest Hindu populations outside of India, a legacy of the indentured laborers brought from the Indian subcontinent during the 19th century. Today, Hindus make up a significant portion of the population, and their cultural influence is felt everywhere, from cuisine to music, and especially in festivals. The most spectacular of these is Diwali, the Festival of Lights, which transforms Trinidad into a glowing sea of lamps and candles every autumn. Entire neighborhoods are decorated with rows of tiny oil lamps called dayas, symbolizing the triumph of light over darkness and good over evil. Schools, temples, and even government offices organize celebrations, while families prepare traditional sweets like barfi and gulab jamun. It is both a religious event and a cultural one, embraced by many non-Hindus as well, showing the unity of Trinidad's diverse society. Diwali is even recognized as a national holiday, a reflection of how deeply the Hindu community has shaped the island's identity. For visitors, it is a breathtaking experience that fuses devotion, artistry, and joyous celebration. Fact 8. Tobago's colorful coral reefs. Surrounding the island of Tobago are some of the most stunning coral reefs in the Caribbean, making it a true paradise for divers and snorkelers. These reefs are home to a dazzling variety of marine life: vibrant parrotfish, angelfish, stingrays, sea turtles, and even the occasional reef shark. The Buccoo Reef in particular is one of the most accessible, stretching across shallow waters where visibility is crystal clear. Local guides often take visitors on glass-bottom boat tours, allowing even non-swimmers to admire the living kaleidoscope beneath the waves. The reefs also play an important role in protecting Tobago's coastline, acting as natural barriers against erosion and storm surges. Unfortunately, like many reefs worldwide, they face threats from climate change, coral bleaching, and pollution, making conservation efforts critical. Still, Tobago's reefs remain some of the healthiest in the region, thanks to community-driven protection programs. For travelers, drifting above these underwater gardens is like entering a completely different world, one that highlights the fragile yet breathtaking beauty of the Caribbean Sea. Fact 9. The famous Buccoo Reef and glass-bottom boats. One of Tobago's greatest natural treasures is the Buccoo Reef, a protected marine park that has become both a scientific wonder and a major tourist attraction. Located just off Pigeon Point, the reef is shallow enough for even beginners to enjoy, with coral formations stretching like a colorful city beneath the waves. Since the 1960s, local guides have offered tours in glass-bottom boats, allowing visitors to gaze directly into the crystal-clear waters without even getting wet. Schools of fish dart between corals, sea fans sway gently in the current, and lucky guests may spot sea turtles gliding gracefully below. The experience often includes a stop at the Nylon Pool, a natural lagoon with waist-deep water in the middle of the sea, famously named by Lady Churchill for its glassy, translucent look. Scientists praise Buccoo Reef as one of the best places to study Caribbean marine biodiversity, while locals see it as part of their heritage. It is both playground and classroom, reminding everyone who visits how precious and fragile ocean ecosystems truly are. Fact 10. Independence in 1962. Trinidad and Tobago officially gained independence from Britain on August 31, 1962, marking a turning point in its national story. After centuries of colonial rule under the Spanish, French, and finally the British, the island stepped into sovereignty with pride and optimism. The first Prime Minister, Dr. Eric Williams, often called the father of the nation, declared that the people were ready to shape their own destiny. The celebrations in Port of Spain included the raising of the red, white, and black flag for the very first time, accompanied by the new national anthem. Unlike some other countries in the region, Trinidad and Tobago's path to independence was peaceful, achieved through negotiation rather than conflict. This smooth transition helped set the stage for political stability and economic growth, particularly as oil and gas wealth began to flourish. To this day, August 31st is Independence Day, celebrated with parades, fireworks, and national pride. It reminds citizens of their hard-won right to self-determination and their unique place in Caribbean history. Fact 11. English and the local Creole. The official language of Trinidad and Tobago is English, a legacy of British colonial rule, but the way it is spoken here is uniquely flavored by history and culture. Most locals switch effortlessly between standard English and what they call Trini Creole, a lively dialect filled with words and phrases from African, Indian, French, and Spanish origins. For example, instead of saying friend, someone might say partner, and to greet each other, locals often use liming, which means hanging out together. Creole is not just a way of speaking. It reflects the country's multicultural roots and its creative rhythmic character. The dialect even shows up in music genres like calypso and soca, where witty lyrics play with slang and double meanings. For a visitor, it might take a little time to adjust, but once you get the hang of it, Trini Creole sounds warm, musical, and full of humor. The ability to shift between proper English and Creole also makes Trinidadians and Tobagonians skillful communicators, comfortable both at home and on the global stage. Fact 12. Doubles, the beloved street food. If there is one dish that unites everyone in Trinidad and Tobago, it is the humble but legendary street food called doubles. This tasty snack consists of two soft pieces of fried flatbread called bara, filled with curried chickpeas and topped with chutneys, cucumber, and fiery pepper sauce. It is eaten with your hands, usually standing at the roadside, and is as messy as it is delicious. Born from the Indian community in the early 20th century, doubles quickly spread across the islands and became the ultimate grab-and-go breakfast. What makes it remarkable is not just the flavor, but the price. A serving still costs only about $1 to $2 American, around 10 to 15 Trinidad and Tobago dollars, making it affordable for everyone, from taxi drivers to office workers. Doubles vendors, often called doubles men, have loyal customers who swear by their favorite stall. For visitors, it is a cultural experience, spicy, vibrant, and deeply satisfying. In a country famous for its carnival and music, doubles is the culinary equivalent, simple, bold, and unforgettable. Fact 13. The anthem forged from the love of liberty. Trinidad and Tobago's national anthem, Forged from the Love of Liberty, was composed by Patrick Castagna and officially adopted in 1962 at independence. The anthem's opening line immediately captures the spirit of a people determined to shape their own future after centuries of colonial rule. Unlike many anthems that emphasize military glory, this one highlights freedom, unity, and the diversity of the nation's heritage. It was originally written to represent the West Indies Federation, a short-lived union of Caribbean islands, but after the federation dissolved, Trinidad and Tobago claimed it as their own. The lyrics speak to the blend of cultures, African, Indian, European, and indigenous, that coexist on the islands. For locals, singing the anthem at schools, sporting events, and national holidays is a moment of deep pride. Its simplicity makes it easy to remember, yet its message is timeless. Liberty is not just given, it is forged through collective will and resilience. The anthem, much like the motto, reflects a nation that values unity over division and hope over despair. Fact 14. Football culture and the 2006 World Cup. Trinidad and Tobago may be a small country, but its passion for football is enormous. The sport rivals cricket in popularity, filling stadiums and bringing communities together across the islands. The greatest moment in the nation's football history came in 2006, when the national team, nicknamed the Soca Warriors, qualified for the FIFA World Cup in Germany. This achievement made Trinidad and Tobago the smallest country by population ever to reach the World Cup finals at that time. Though they did not advance beyond the group stage, their performance won respect worldwide, particularly after a hard-fought draw against Sweden. The players, including star goalkeeper Shaka Hislop and captain Dwight York, became national heroes overnight. The tournament energized the entire country, sparking street parties, flag-waving parades, and an outpouring of pride. For a nation of just over 1 million people, competing on the global stage was proof that size does not limit ambition. To this day, the memory of 2006 reminds Trinidadians and Tobagonians that with determination, even the smallest can stand among the giants. Fact 15. Tobago's symbol, the rare black coral. Among Tobago's natural treasures, none is more symbolic than the rare black coral that grows in its surrounding waters. Unlike the brightly colored corals most people imagine, black coral is deep, mysterious, and far less common, thriving in the darker depths of the ocean. For centuries, divers and jewelers prized it for its beauty and durability, crafting it into necklaces, bracelets, and ornaments. In Tobago, black coral became a cultural emblem, representing both the mystery of the sea and the island's close relationship with the ocean. Because of its rarity, however, black coral is now strictly protected by law to prevent overharvesting and ecological damage. Scientists note that these corals grow extremely slowly, sometimes only a fraction of an inch per year, which means a piece of jewelry could represent decades, even centuries, of growth. For modern Tobagonians, black coral is less about commerce and more about identity, a reminder that their island is home to treasures that cannot be measured in money, whether in American dollars or Trinidad and Tobago dollars, but only in their uniqueness and fragility. Fact 16. Dolphins off the coast of Tobago. The waters around Tobago are famous for frequent dolphin sightings, making the island one of the Caribbean's best places to encounter these playful creatures in their natural habitat. Pods of spinner and bottlenose dolphins often appear just off the coast, leaping gracefully alongside boats and sometimes putting on spectacular acrobatic shows. Locals say the best time to see them is in the early morning, when the sea is calm and the dolphins are most active. For fishermen, dolphins are seen as companions at sea, symbols of good fortune and safe passage. Tour operators have built eco-tours around these encounters, offering visitors the thrill of seeing wild dolphins without captivity. It's not unusual for lucky tourists to spot dozens at once, turning an ordinary boat ride into a magical memory. Unlike whale watching in colder regions, Tobago's warm, turquoise waters allow for year-round sightings, adding to the island's appeal. The presence of dolphins highlights how rich and healthy Tobago's marine ecosystem remains, a reminder that here, nature still performs daily shows more spectacular than anything man-made. Fact 17. Fort King George, Tobago's oldest guardian. Standing proudly on a hilltop overlooking Scarborough, Fort King George is one of Tobago's most historic and best-preserved landmarks. Built by the British in the late 18th century and named after King George III, the fort once protected the island from rival colonial powers and pirate raids. Its cannons, still pointed toward the harbor, remind visitors of Tobago's turbulent past, when the island changed hands more than 30 times between European nations. Today, the fort is no longer a place of war but a place of memory, housing a small but fascinating museum with exhibits on Tobago's history, from Amerindian heritage to colonial battles. The views from the fort are spectacular, offering sweeping panoramas of the town, the coastline, and the Caribbean Sea. Many travelers say it is one of the best spots to watch a Tobago sunset. Entry is inexpensive, usually just a few American dollars, about 20 Trinidad and Tobago dollars, making it accessible to everyone. Fort King George stands as a reminder that Tobago's beauty has always been worth defending, and its stones echo with centuries of stories. Fact 18. The Bamboo Cathedral of Trinidad. Deep within Trinidad's northern range lies one of the island's most enchanting natural wonders, the Bamboo Cathedral. This spot is not a building, but a pathway where giant bamboo stalks arch overhead, bending toward each other until they form a towering green tunnel, much like the vaulted ceilings of a cathedral. The effect is magical, especially when the wind rustles through the leaves and sunlight filters in soft golden rays. It has become a beloved sight for couples, often chosen for wedding photos or even small ceremonies, where nature provides the decoration for free. Hikers, cyclists, and even monkeys love the trail that winds through the area, making it both a recreational escape and a spiritual experience. For locals, the Bamboo Cathedral is a reminder of how nature itself can create structures more breathtaking than man could design. Visiting is free of charge, costing nothing but the effort to reach it, though guided tours are often offered for about 10 to 20 American dollars, roughly 70 to 150 Trinidad and Tobago dollars. It is a serene sanctuary that blends beauty, history, and a touch of the divine. Fact 19. Tobago, a birdwatcher's paradise. Tobago may be small, but for birdwatchers it is a giant in the Caribbean. The island's diverse habitats, rainforests, wetlands, mangroves, and coastal cliffs, create a haven for over 200 species of birds. The Main Ridge Forest Reserve, established in 1765, is the oldest legally protected rainforest in the Western Hemisphere, and it is a hotspot for sightings. Here, enthusiasts can spot the blue-backed manakin, the collared trogon, and the dazzling motmot with its racket-shaped tail. Along the coasts, flocks of pelicans, frigate birds, and herons dominate the skies, while the famous scarlet ibis occasionally makes a dramatic appearance. Guided birding tours have become a major part of Tobago's ecotourism industry, with packages ranging from 20 to 50 American dollars, about 150 to 350 Trinidad and Tobago dollars, depending on length and location. For locals, birds are more than a spectacle. They are a cultural treasure woven into folklore and songs. In Tobago, to look up at the trees is to look into a living symphony of color and sound, proof of the island's untouched natural wealth. Fact 20. The national flag designed in 1962. When Trinidad and Tobago gained independence in 1962, the nation needed a flag that would capture its identity and spirit. The design, created by artist Carlisle Chang and Carnival designer George Bailey, became one of the most striking flags in the Caribbean. Its bold red background represents the vitality and warmth of the people, as well as the energy of the sun. The black diagonal band stands for the strength and resilience of the nation, while the white borders symbolize purity, equality, and the surrounding sea. Simple yet powerful, the design avoids clutter, instead relying on color and form to communicate unity. The diagonal stripe also makes the flag easily recognizable, even from afar or when flying in strong winds. Today, it is a source of immense pride, seen not only at government buildings but also at carnival parades, cricket matches, and football games. For many Trinidadians and Tobagonians, raising the red, black, and white flag is more than ritual. It is a statement of belonging and shared destiny, forged in independence and carried proudly into the future. Fact 21. The African-inspired Sou-Sou system. One of Trinidad and Tobago's most fascinating cultural traditions is the Sou-Sou, a community-based savings system with African roots that survives strongly today. Brought by enslaved Africans centuries ago, Sou-Sou is based on trust, cooperation, and collective responsibility. The idea is simple. A group of people each contribute a fixed sum of money into a common pool at regular intervals, perhaps 50 or 100 American dollars, equal to around 350 to 700 Trinidad and Tobago dollars. At each round, one member takes the entire pool, and the cycle continues until everyone has had their turn. Unlike banks, Sou-Sou requires no contracts or interest. It thrives on honor and reputation within the community. Many families still use it to save for big expenses like school fees, weddings, or travel. What makes Sou-Sou remarkable is that it is not just a financial system, but also a cultural practice, fostering solidarity in neighborhoods. It shows how traditions born of hardship have adapted to modern life, proving that trust and unity can sometimes be stronger than paperwork and institutions. Fact 22. Goat meat. In Tobagonian cuisine. In Tobago, goat meat is more than just food. It is a culinary tradition that reflects the island's African and Indian heritage. Dishes like curried goat or goat roti are staples at family gatherings, festivals, and even weddings. The meat is slow-cooked until tender, infused with bold spices such as cumin, coriander, turmeric, and Scotch bonnet peppers, creating a rich, fiery flavor that locals cherish. Goat is considered special occasion food, and many say it carries a taste deeper and more robust than beef or chicken. It is also linked to cultural events, particularly during Eid celebrations, when Muslim families prepare goat dishes to share with neighbors. Prices for a plate of curried goat vary, but at local restaurants it often costs around 8 to 10 American dollars, roughly 50 to 70 Trinidad and Tobago dollars. Goat farming in Tobago is largely small-scale, with farmers raising animals in open pastures, which adds to the authenticity of the flavor. For visitors, trying goat meat is a chance to taste Tobago's soul, as every bite tells a story of history, culture, and island resilience. Fact 23. The gentle manatee of Nariva Swamp. In the wetlands of Trinidad's Nariva Swamp lives one of the most gentle and mysterious creatures of the Caribbean, the West Indian manatee. Often called sea cows, these slow-moving mammals can weigh over 1,000 pounds, yet they glide gracefully through the waters, feeding on aquatic plants. Once widespread across the region, manatees were heavily hunted for their meat and nearly disappeared from Trinidad. Today, the Nariva Swamp is a protected area, giving these endangered animals a fighting chance at survival. Sightings are rare, but for those lucky enough, the experience is unforgettable. Watching a massive, peaceful creature surface to breathe, then sink quietly below the water. Conservation groups now work closely with local communities to protect manatees, emphasizing their importance as indicators of healthy ecosystems. Tourists visiting Nariva can sometimes join guided eco-tours for about 20 to 30 American dollars, roughly 150 to 200 Trinidad and Tobago dollars, supporting both wildlife protection and local livelihoods. The manatee's presence in Trinidad is a reminder of how fragile nature can be and how deeply humans are tied to its survival. Fact 24: Tobagonian folklore of ghosts and myths. Tobago is not only rich in natural beauty, but also in folklore, filled with ghost stories and myths that have been passed down for generations. Islanders speak of spirits like the Sucuyant, a vampire-like old woman said to shed her skin at night and fly through the skies as a ball of fire searching for victims. Another chilling figure is the Lagahoo, a shapeshifter often compared to the European werewolf. These tales, rooted in African, European, and indigenous traditions, were originally told to teach lessons or keep children close to home after dark. Even today, many Tobagonians claim to have seen strange lights in the forest or heard eerie sounds along deserted roads. Folklore is not confined to old tales. It lives on in festivals, songs, and even in carnival characters that dramatize these mythical beings. For visitors, listening to locals share these ghostly legends can be as captivating as any tourist attraction. It is a reminder that Tobago's culture is not just visible in food or music, but also in the unseen world of imagination, where fear and wonder meet under the Caribbean moonlight.